Let's bring in ABC News contributor and former UK national security official Steve Hill for more. Steve, thanks so much for joining us. Ahead of Davos, President Trump doubled down on his threats to seize Greenland. Now Greenland's prime minister said that a U.S. military invasion can't be ruled out. What are the European leaders expecting from President Trump as he speaks in Davos tomorrow?
Good evening, Linsey. I think, as so often, they'll be hoping for the best, but fearing the worst. They'll be hoping that the president, as he did in his press conference earlier today, will be celebrating a year where he has made some real achievements. But they'll be fearing that he focuses instead on his very well-known views about Europe and specifically on Greenland and, the prospects of some sort of escalation on the Greenland issue. They will be desperate to de-escalate the issue. That can be done on defense, that can be done on trade, but would be very difficult to do on sovereignty. That's an area where I don't think that there is any sort of compromise, unfortunately.
Last night, we spoke with former Danish Minister Ida Auken about the escalating tensions over Greenland. She says Putin and Xi are smiling because NATO is fighting each other. This comes as U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner met with Russian President Vladimir Putin's envoy at Davos. Do you agree with her?
I think absolutely right. I think that this sort of internal fighting amongst NATO allies is really unfortunate. The deployment of some European troops into Greenland was designed, I think, to sort of demonstrate to President Trump that there was burden sharing, that they stood with him, but it seems to have been interpreted almost as an affront, as a threat, which I think was absolutely not what the intention was. It was there as part of what I think President Putin and President Xi need to remember, as part of a collective defense against Russia and against China. And that is where we all do share an interest, and we are stronger together than divided, absolutely clearly. But hopefully, as was hinted by the president in his press conference, we will see something a little bit more positive unveiling over the next few days.
What do you think the consequences would be if President Trump doesn't strike a diplomatic deal on Greenland?
I mean, it's already been damaging to the alliance. Trust has already been broken. I think you already see the Europeans taking much more seriously the idea that they need independence in terms of defense, in terms of trade and economics, and in terms perhaps also of technology from the US. And that will, over the next few years, change things fundamentally. Of course, there could be tariffs. We shouldn't overestimate the impact of these, but it's not great for either side. The US consumer does end up, to some extent, having to share that cost and to pay that cost. But at the same time, the worst thing that could happen would be some sort of military action.
Steve Hill, we thank you so much for your insight. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.